Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 1, Chapter 8, entitled Prayers by Queen Kunti and Parikshit Saved. Text 13:3. Apare Vasudevasya Devakayan Mahayachato Mayagat Ajastvamasya Kashamaya Adyachas Radivisham Apara Vasudevasya Devakiyam Yachito Mayagat Ajastvamasya Kashamaya Radaya cha sura Vishayasam. Someone else, please. Devakiyadam Yachito Vayagat Ajastvamasya Maya Radaya cha sura Visam. On Zoom, someone can chant, please.
Apare Vasudevasya Devakyam Yachito Vyagat Ajastvam Asya Maya Vadaya cha Suratvisam.
Apare Vasudevasya Devakyam Yachito Vyagat Ajastvam Asya Maya Vadaya Chashura Visam.
Apare Vasudevasya Devakyam Yachito Bhagad Ajastvam Asya Shemaya Vadaya Cha Suradvisha.
Is that everyone? Anyone else like to chant? Others. Vasudevasya of Vasudev. Devakyam of Devaki. Yachita being prayed for. Mayagat took birth. Ajaha unborn. From you are. Asya of him. Vishamaya for the good. Vadaya for the purpose of killing. Cha and Suradevasya of those who are envious of demigods. Others say that since both Vasudeva and Devaki prayed for you, you have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly, you are unborn, yet you take your birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of the demigods. You can repeat. Others say that since both Vasudeva and Devaki prayed for you, you have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly, you are unborn, yet you take your birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of the demigods. Vasudeva and Devaki, in their previous birth as Sutapa and Krishna, underwent a severe type of penance to get the Lord as their son. And as a result of such austerities, the Lord appeared as their son. It is already declared in the Bhagavad Gita that the Lord appears for the welfare of all people of the world and to vanquish the asuras, or the materialistic atheists. Sri Chaitanya Vistam Stapitam Dina Bhutale Swarupakarama Padam Puswapadam Padam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Uta Patakamadam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sakarajatam Sapadam Raghunatam Vitam Sajavam Sadhvetam Sarvatutam Brajana Satam Shri Krishna Shri Krishna Karana Sindhu Tinatam Brajadapate Gopisha, Gopipakam, Jayarakan, Kumyastate, Jayatam, Suratopam, Rogamati, Matsavasyapadam, Vardam, Mohanam, Mama Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prasaya, Vidya, Srimati Bhakti, Vedanta Swami, Vidyavana, Namaste, Saraswati, Devam, Yaravan, Pajam, Namaste, Susya, Pustacha, Vedakara. Apare Vasudevasya Devakiyam Yachito Vadagat Ajatvam Asya Kushanaya Vadaya Cha Sura Vishay. Others say that since both Vasudeva and Devaki prayed for you, you have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly, you are unborn, yet you take your birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of the demigods. Now, it seems to me there's a verse in Bhagavad Gita that says the same thing. Is that Paritanaya Sadhana? Is that the verse? The verse from Bhagavad Gita that's similar? Oh, it's Yadavata Hidana Srisaki. Verse okay. So Krishna makes his appearance for the welfare of this spirit souls within the world, and to kill those spirit souls who are envious of the demigods. These are his two functions, as it is explained in Bhagavad Gita. To bring pleasure to his devotees and to annihilate the miscreants. Now the question comes, where are we? Are we amongst the devotees or are we amongst the miscreants? This is the question. Each of us have to decide where we're at. And if we don't make this decision, we can understand that we are in the miscreant category. Because we're expressing a desire not to return to Krishna by doing nothing. We have to do something to advance in the spiritual life. We have to turn away from materialistic life and towards spiritual life. If we don't do this, we are miscreants and we're going to stay here. Because this is a prison house. It's been constructed by Krishna for us so that we can come back to him. Now, of course, we need some reformation before we can go back. We have to become qualified to go back. And so in this prison house, Krishna sends some representative to take us out. And by the guidance of this spiritual master, we can depart from this material world, provided we follow his directions. This requires some humility on our part. It also requires some surrender. Surrender to the will of God and the proper frame of mind to do that surrender. You can look at Ramachandra and his associates, and you'll see that Hanuman is there. And if you look very closely at Hanuman, you'll see that his head is slightly bowed. And he's kneeling on one knee, and his hands are folded in front of his heart. This is called the Dasya Mudra. It expresses humility, the desire to render service. He so much wants to render service that one time Lord Ramachandra asked him to sit down and take a meal with him. This meant eating from the same plate as Lord Ramachandra. And Hanuman, he was very much afraid of that position. He didn't want to fall into the idea of thinking that I am Lord Ram's friend. Because if I am the servant, how can I be the friend? I can't do that. These two rasas don't do too well together. So we have to follow in these footsteps of Lord Hanuman. To surrender unto Krishna. This means giving up our various mental concepts and taking on the vision of an advanced person. Maybe we might not have association directly of an advanced person, but he has representatives and we can surrender to them. Especially in this day and age. The great advanced spirits of soul, even though he may travel all over the place, finds it very difficult to meet every single person and give personal instruction to him. So he tries to train up some of his sincere followers to carry on the tradition. And so even though they are not that advanced soul, because they are faithfully following that advanced soul, they can also give guidance to us. So many instructions are there. Hundreds of them. All you have to do is open up the Leelamrita and you'll see inside the pages of the Leelamrita so many instructions, even though Prabhupada didn't write that book. He was the topic of that book, and various instances are given therein of his instructions. So one of his sincere followers, of course, if you look at the internet, you can find someone that will complain about someone who's seen as being sincere. There's so many complaints about the various acharyas. This is all the work of Mayadeva to distract you from spiritual life. To surrender to the spiritual master or his representative sometimes is seen as being weak, submissive, not making one's own decision instead of following someone else. But a symbol of strength is the determination to follow those directions that are given. They are the map to take us back home. those directions. Things like, well, I heard from one godmother, he said, you shouldn't take your beads and hang them on a nail. And then I also seen by Prabhupada's example, when he put his bead bag down, he did not set his bead bag on the cushion on which he was sitting. Why? Some inquired, why was he doing it? And the answer is that his feet touch that cushion, and he considers that his feet are unclean, and therefore the cushion is unclean, so I can't put my feet there. So Prabhupada would always set his feet to the side, not on the cushion, on some higher cushion or some table nearby, close at hand, so we can reach it. Almost every single picture you see of Prabhupada, he has either beads in his hands, or they're close to his hand somewhere, maybe hanging around his neck, or on the side of the sauna that he's sitting. But never are they sitting on the cushion where he sits. The same thing with implements used in the glorification of Krishna. Kartals, harmonium, madanga. They should never be put on the seat where one sits and puts one's feet. These are all some of the directions that were given of how to see everything as Krishna's property. Every circumstance one can engage in, there's some regulation that Prabhupada has given that covers the situation. Of course, we won't know this unless we pick up his books and read. One of my godbrothers, who is no longer with us, was sent to Russia to preach. And it wasn't very easy for him because his body was black. And this was in the 70s when the communist regime in Russia was very strong. So he stood out. He'd be in a crowd of people and he stood out. So it wasn't very easy for him to be there. But he still followed all of Prabhupada's directions. And I one time I heard him say, to his disciples, he was about to depart to go to Mayapur for the Mayapur festival. And he told his disciples, he said, I've asked you previously to chant 16 rounds faithfully, and if you can't do it in that day, you should make up the next day. Prabhupada said the same thing. He said after that one other instruction he wanted to give is that if you should read for 1 hour every day from Prabhupada's books. And if you can't read, then the next day you should take up that extra time. He said himself that he was personally doing this because when all the sannyasis gathered in Mayapur every year, they would critique each other so that they can improve their qualities, their spiritual qualities. Come to a higher platform, always trying to improve. And they found out that they thought that he didn't quote sufficiently from the literature. So he said that he decided that he would read for 1 hour every day without fail, and that it was very likely because they were his disciples, they weren't reading regularly every day. So he requested of them to read every day for 1 hour. So many instructions are there. And all of these instructions are to increase one's Krishna consciousness. Even the month of Damodar is about increasing one's consciousness. The month of Damodar is a festival that lasts for 1 month. And every day, Krishna is glorified, in the morning and in the evening. And it's requested as part of the vrata that one come to the temple and render service on a daily basis. The purpose behind that is so that you have a taste for coming to do service on a daily basis, and that following the month of Damodar, it is hoped that you will take it up as a permanent function. This is why the month of Damodar is practiced, that Damodar Vrata is practiced in that way. Is to give everyone the opportunity, the taste, to render devotional service in the temple under the guidance of other devotees. If you don't come to the temple and render service, you don't develop properly the submissive attitude required to do devotional service. Sure, you may come on Sunday feast. Sure, you may participate in the kirtan and take prasadam. Sure, it's purifying, but service in the association of other devotees is even more so, because it cleanses the heart. It used to be the custom amongst the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta that if someone was new, that he go to the kitchen and wash the pots. It's a regular daily function. And this works, no matter how much conditioned you are, if you come every day and do the service. Gradually, your heart becomes soft. Soft in the way of worship, soft in the way of love, attached to the regular of service develops. If you don't come, and you continue to come just on festival days, to participate in kirtan and take prasadam, and maybe hear a class or two, it slows the progress downward, but it doesn't take you anywhere. And so you fall into the mystery category. Or not really fall into the mystery category, you remain in the mystery category. And you don't make any spiritual advancement. Associating devotees is not an easy thing. Because sometimes you have to bite your tongue. Take care with your behavior. You don't know whom you're associating with. It may cause some great offense. Remember, one of the 10 offenses, actually there are 11 of them, but it says 10. So these 11 offenses in the chanting of the holy name. One of them is to find fault with others. And this is mentioned because it stifles your devotional mentality to cause you to stop serving. You stop serving and you start finding fault with others, and pretty soon you're walking down the road away from Krishna, not walking towards Krishna. So this purpose of surrendering to Krishna is the path back home, back to Godhead. Because in the spiritual world, only those who are fully engrossed in rendering unalloyed devotional service to the Lord stay in the spiritual world. And those who become of an envious nature depart from the material world. That's how we got here. And to get back home, back to Godhead, we have to give up that material conception. I am this body. I am great. All these thoughts of making advancement in the material world only ties us down, binds us up. Chanting Krishna's holy name when done in the mood that one finds in a small child who cries for its mother. This is how we are to chant, very attentively, very eagerly, very enthusiastically. Child wants something and it cries until mother comes and gives it. And if mother doesn't come to give it, then the child keeps on crying. And no one can take away that anxiety. This is the mood we have to chant in. Eagerly. Without any expectation of personal gain. Just to please Krishna. We can participate in congregational chanting of the holy name. And this helps us advance. The only difficulty is that are we chanting for our own pleasure? If we are, we're going to stay in the material world, participating in kirtans forever like that. Unless we change our consciousness, we want to chant in a way that pleases Krishna. This means pronouncing the mantras in the correct way. Something I can't do at all. So we have to find some way to please Krishna. And there are so many ways to please Krishna, not just one. And the first way is following those directions given by the spiritual master. And associate with other like-minded individuals. You can't come to the Sunday feast or any other festival and don't see the devotees during the rest of the week, because you'll develop the consciousness of those people you associate with the most. So it's best to try to come regularly, maybe even on a daily basis. Some say this is much too difficult. It's not that difficult. You just have to stop trying to enjoy in the evening so that you can get up in the morning and come. It's not hard. It's a matter of changing some things so that you can do something else that will be beneficial to your spiritual life. And just coming to Mangal Artik once a day, this is associating with other devotees. Of course, it's nice if you also render some other physical service in the association of devotees. So many ways to serve. Almost every activity can be some kind of service, provided Krishna is at the center of the service. So is there any comments, questions? From anybody? You've got 20 minutes. Really like to have a little bit of discussion from you, because then we can understand, if we understand what this verse was about. Yes. Well, if you'd like to stay in the material world. It doesn't make you nice because you're engaged, at least you're engaged in a kirtan. That's kind of nice. The only problem is that how do you render personal service in the association of everyone else who's also fully engaged in rendering devotional service? In the material world, even though you're participating in the kirtan with others, some of those others are thinking, oh, I sing really nice, or no, I play this instrument nicely. And he may be completely out of time, but he thinks he's doing really good. And that's who you're associating with. That's so good. You should be associating with someone who wants to please Krishna. And the best place to do that is in Vaikuntha, with Krishna. Wherever Krishna is at the time, that is Vaikuntha. And if you're there participating with others in like mind, then you're going to stay in his association, provided you don't allow envy to creep in. That's how we got it in the first place. You allow envy to creep in. We didn't maintain a humble mentality. And in Kirtan, we can be so proud. I saw one day one devotee was playing Madanga. He wasn't following the leader in the Kirtan. He was too busy playing Madanga, and he was absorbed in playing the Madanga that way. And if you would have asked him, oh, you did so nice, he would smile. But he was out of sync with the rest of the Kirtan players. What kind of Kirtan is that? You're not engaged congregationally with others. That means you have to put aside your concept and come into line with the other Kirtan players. It takes surrender to be in unison with others, play the same beat, sing the same mantra, in the same melody. This requires some surrender sometimes, because some people are a little proud of what they're doing. And so they're going to play their own little beat. And it's happened. I saw them do that. I mentioned it to him, and there were other devotees who were nearby, and I called one of them and I said, I told that other person, he doesn't play in unison with you, does he? And the other devotee said, yeah, he does. Yeah. And so this devotee changed his method of playing, and now he's highly liked amongst the kirtan players. Why? Because he participates in unison with them, rather than in opposition to them. This is the only way to go back home. You have to be in sync with other Vaishnavas, or at least those aspiring to be Vaishnavas. Sure, you can stay in the material world and stay in a kirtan like that, except for Krishna might decide you're supposed to come. And you have to go when he calls. You can't just stay here forever. Of course, if you ask him, maybe he'll let you stay there. That's his decision, not ours. We have to go where he tells us to go. Anything else? Zoom? Do we have any comments from Zoom?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Saraswati Mataji raised her hand. Please go ahead, Saraswati Mataji.
Hare Krishna, pranams to all. Thank you for a class that really awakens us to this urgency of duty and devotion to serving Krishna. And just in the mood of absorbed in the pastimes of Lord Ram, I'm thinking of so many of his devotees. They took that to task, and of course Hanuman is a perfect example of someone in the Dasya Ras, and I'm thinking of how he or any success or any immense power that he was supposed to, or he was able to exhibit, he always gave the credit to Lord Ram, that Lord Ram was the source of any success he met with, and he never gave any great importance to what he would like. And an example of that is when Lord Ramchandra was wrapping up his pastimes, and so many of his devotees went back with him to the spiritual world, Ayodhya. And of course, Hanuman couldn't even bear the thought of this physical separation from Lord Ramchandra, but he said, Chiranjeevi, Lord Ramchandra gave him that task that now he has to guide the devotees and curb demoniac tendencies that are going to be coming in the different yugas. So, all right, he thought, this is the desire of my Lord. So even if I have to have my heart broken to bear this separation, still fulfilling Lord Ramchandra's desire was paramount. I'm also thinking of how the spiritual world mentality is that they derive more pleasure and bliss when they see another devotee deriving pleasure and bliss from engaging in the Lord's service. There's no envious mentality at all. They just derive so much pleasure seeing another devotee happily serving the Lord. And I'm reminded of how in the Vaikunthas, when everyone's glorifying Lord Narayan, and suddenly bees that are buzzing around Lord Narayan's garland want to also glorify the Lord, everyone else becomes quiet to listen to the bees now glorifying Lord Narayan. So this, all of this just makes me think how far removed I am from that kind of mentality. Is just like I'm just the complete opposite. My mentality is the complete opposite of that mentality that exists in the spiritual world. Just a real wake-up call. Thank you for a wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much for a nice class. And you were mentioning about Damodara month, we must do service daily. And so that we'll develop the taste. That reminds me, Prabhupada says once saying in his morning walks, by drinking daily, one can become a drunkard. Similarly, by reading and preaching regularly, one can become great preacher. That's what I remembered. And coming to the thing you were mentioning about that one must have the enthusiasm. So can you please let's chat, enlighten how to get that enthusiasm in us?
Yes. Enthusiasm is acquired due to the association of advanced devotees. And it also involves you being patient with your inability to execute the service and trying always to improve on the quality of service. That's what a definition of enthusiasm is that you're eager to do it. Yeah? Maybe in the beginning, this has to become an act. Just like one time, I don't know the devotee's name, he was everyone was bowing down to Prabhupada, and this devotee didn't want to do that. He didn't feel humble enough to pay obeisances. And Prabhupada said, you just do it, and the enthusiasm to do it regularly will come. I think it was Gargamuni, you know. So, the example was there. That occurred in Seattle. That question was asked when Prabhupada was in Seattle with a bunch of Brahmachari. I think there's a few householders there also. In 1969, I think. There was some devotees, well, there was two people that Prabhupada had been communicating with in Vancouver at that time, in 68, excuse me, in 68. There were two people that were, and so one devotee was sent from Montreal to establish a temple, and shortly after that, Garden Muni and a group of brahmacharis came to Seattle to start a temple there. And then short time later, Prabhupada came. And when Prabhupada came, Garden Muni didn't bow down and pay obeisances like the other devotees, because he didn't feel qualified to do that. He didn't feel humble enough to do that. He didn't see any necessity. And Prabhupada said, you bow down anyway. And after a while, the desire to do it will arise, naturally. So enthusiasm comes by doing the activity, even though you may not be inclined. And by associating with other devotees and seeing how they do this service, or how they are acting, then that enthusiasm will come and will spread to all your other activities. You'll become enthusiastic in everything. You'll become attached to doing everything also, because that's part of enthusiasm, is to do it regularly and being attached to doing the service. In the beginning, it may be a little bit mechanical, just like in the beginning of chanting, it may be a little mechanical. But after a while, a taste will come. A taste for entering the service will come. And enthusiasm will be on the heels of that taste. Anything else?
Thank you.
Is there anybody else has any other additions? Any complaints? So if we don't have any complaints, if we're finding everything very nicely situated, and we're enthusiastic in rendering service, then we should be coming frequently to the temple. This is what it indicates. If you think you're enthusiastic, then my question is, why aren't you here?